For large-scale operations, this can easily total in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. New lighting, HVAC, dehumidifiers, heat curtains, controllers not only can cost a fortune, but are expensive to operate. This is just the unfortunate reality of running a grow facility, but not anymore. If you've heard of a company called Green Rebates, then you already know what I'm talking about. Green Rebates changed the entire indoor cultivation industry seemingly overnight. They are the leading rebate and incentive management company in the US, and their sole purpose is to get you paid for the purchase of new grow equipment. Not a loan, real cash paid to growers. To date, Green Rebates has put more than $75 million back in the pockets of growers all across the nation. It doesn't matter if you've just purchased new equipment, are planning an expansion, opening a new facility, or maybe even just waiting for the economy to turn around before making any purchasing decisions. If you're a grower, you need to call the team at Green Rebates. They run an in-depth review of your facility to find all applicable equipment and energy rebates, and can connect you with every leading product manufacturer to find the right fit for your needs. Then they show up with a check. It won't cost you anything to find out how much money is being left on the table. Money that you can use to grow your business. Call Green Rebates, tell them you heard about them on the Cannabis and Tech Today podcast, and get ready to get paid.
Welcome to another episode of Cannabis Tech Talks, brought to you by Green Rebates. We are here at MJ BizCon. I'm Mary Jane, and I'm here with Mary Jane, Oatman, and Rob Pero of the Indigenous Cannabis Industry Association. Welcome. Thanks for having us.
So excited to be here. This is massive.
Is this your first conference?
Second MJ Biz for me.
Number 6.
Wow. Okay, you're an industry veteran.
Yes.
So I would love to know about the work that you're doing and why specifically you feel it's important to be at this show.
Things are happening with Indigenous communities. It's exciting to be able to be here on behalf of the Indigenous Cannabis Industry Association to represent the emergence of Indigenous communities in reclaiming plant medicine healing and really taking the conversation beyond the political sphere and getting down to where the rubber meets the road here at MJ BizCon into the business development, the tech, the AI, just all of these business solutions, all in this amazing convention center. It's one-stop shop, and we're excited to be able to host and invite tribes and bring them here.
Yeah, I mean, we're here to gather knowledge as usual. This is not typically an event that we kind of focus on because it's a bit more mainstream, and there's a lot more tactical work that has to happen in Indian country right now. So. But this is where, as you said, the rubber meets the road. This is kind of Cannabis 501 per se when you come to MJ Biz. So we're still here, and there are tribes that are really advanced in the industry, and there are tribes that are really just looking to kind of build their toolkit about how to advance the industry. So we're here to connect. We're here to do deals. We're here to find partners, and we couldn't be more excited.
So the organization has a sort of a multi-pronged approach. You work with policy, empowerment, and connection. Can you say a little bit about policy and what you're looking for, especially with the upcoming new administration?
Yeah, I mean, so sovereign nations, right? 574 sovereign nations in the U.S. I don't think people kind of understand what that means, but they communicate, on a federal to federal level. So tribes have, the autonomy to self-determine what's best for them and their communities. And you're seeing that in action right now with the Eastern Band of Cherokee, who's advanced plant medicine to a recreational level before the state has. So in states like mine, which is Wisconsin, Idaho, we're in these prohibition states with tribes that are looking to advance wellness for their communities. So I think for us, we still operate in a vacuum. I don't think administration is really going to change too much, except now we're at this point where we have a president that's kind of a wheeling, dealing president, and our tribes are really, trying to find sort of the peace of mind they need and the toolkits they need to advance, and knowing that public safety is first and that their communities aren't going to be at risk. So I don't think anything changes except for the fact that things are going to move even faster, I feel. And tribes are starting to get organized to not be on islands, but really get organized in solidarity to have the confidence to move forward, with this plant medicine together.
So you're on the ground in Wisconsin and you're in Idaho.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit more about what it's like to be in a prohibition state? What is it like on the ground in Idaho? That's got to be hard.
It is difficult.
Yeah.
I had a victory report just yesterday. And I had one of my own family members, my own son, was going through a possession charge in Idaho. And being a young person, it's a very scary thing. But we're surrounded by adult use states all around us. And it's not just our young people that are still facing these criminal prohibitions. We have elders that are going through criminal court cases in Idaho. So I really feel like compelled to, call the industry at large to action, to help support states like Wisconsin and Idaho, because it feels like there's so much celebration, like we've crossed some sort of finish line, but to know that, we got organizations out there like Freedom Grow and Last Prisoner Project that are, working towards efforts for releasing currently incarcerated prisoners, that we're in states where we're still locking people up. And I don't know, I feel like right now the mentality in Idaho, it's very much a religious ideology. They see the economics behind cannabis, and that just does not seem to be a factor that they weigh into the landscape for cannabis in Idaho, unfortunately.
That's hard.
Yeah, Wisconsin is the same. Illinois, Michigan, Minnesota, we're surrounded by legal states. In Wisconsin specifically, we have hemp. And now we have all the derivatives, right? And everyone seems to look the other way to the fact that we already do have THC in the state. So it's a really interesting dichotomy, being an operator, having a hemp company, and being an advocate, and then working with the tribes to figure out the best path forward, right? And right now in Wisconsin, the tribes have really kind of taken the steering wheel and launched Wisconsin Wellness, which is a statewide legalization campaign for medicinal. And the tribes are leading this effort for the benefit of the greater state. So I think what you're seeing is in states like ours, which we feel somewhat repressed, right? Like we're not able to activate and have that adult choice, but we're able to kind of build our playbook while we're watching all the other states go through the regulatory practices. And the tribes are really, I think, trying to identify ways that they can be above board and do things the right way, but also be inclusive to the larger community, because we'll probably be serving them before the state will.
When you're talking about a call to action, what does that mean for someone who is uneducated about the work that you do, for someone who is unfamiliar with the work that that needs to be done? What can we do to educate and inform people?
A lot of the work that we do in the advocacy arena for our organization has been amplifying the I in BIPOC. So, within the industry, social equity and racial justice reform is just make sure that the I is not silent in the overall advocacy efforts for minority and BIPOC communities, and also just this reminding people that many of our indigenous communities had a relationship with this plant medicine prior to any colonial contact. So I think that kind of also shifts gears with this recognition that indigenous rights around plant medicine and the interruption of that relationship, that didn't happen with Harry Anslinger. So there's a longer and larger pre-prohibition context that very much includes indigenous communities. It was the impetus for the Indian Religious Freedom Act to be passed, because there was a recognition that a lot of our indigenous cultures, it was criminalized to pray and take sacrament as indigenous communities in the 1800s. And so that meant we were being criminalized for having smoking relationships. And so the repair that needs to happen in our communities, I think, it's a different context than the overall repair that we talk about in the industry. So I think it goes back to that recognition of the recognition of the indigenous rights for spiritual and sacramental cannabis.
How did you come to found the organization? How did you meet?
Oh man, I'll tell that story. So about 3 years ago, we were at RES, which is the largest economic development conference in Indian country. It's in Vegas. We can take over Caesar's Palace. They talk about all the industries. It's kind of outside of gaming, right? So gaming is the big industry, and then RES kind of, brings into the fold all the other industries that Indian country is working in. And at the time, there was no talk about cannabis or hemp. There was sort of like the hallway conversations that were being had. And I was down having conversations about that as an operator. She was down doing THC magazine, Tribal Hemp and Cannabis magazine. She had actually read an article about me. I had no idea. So we were at 2 a.m. You never know what time it is in Vegas because there's no clocks anywhere. But my partner, Apache, had met you at the other side of a bar in Paris and said, hey, Rob Perro's over near. She's like, Rob Perro from Indigenous. I just wrote an article on him. So in the middle of the night, I found out who MJ was, the work that she had been doing. So she had written this kind of full-page spread on Indigenous. And she was out really profiling the operators, the tribal operators across the country. She was boots on the ground, and she created the first tribal operator map across the U.S. So just happenstance, serendipitous, whatever you want to call it. We met in the middle of the night at the largest economic development conference where cannabis and hemp were not on the agenda. But that's where we connected, and the rest is sort of history.
A lot of really other amazing connections. We found out that we're birthday twins. We're both Pisces,
Nice.
Born on the 25th, and he's like my brother. It's really, it's been very powerful to be a part of this organization, and Rob very intentionally has surrounded himself by wisdom keepers as well as women. And I thought that was a really interesting thing to note, that it's not very common in the cannabis industry to see as many women in different leadership positions. And so I recognize that, in this role that I have representing as a executive in the cannabis industry, for me, I want that to be a door open. I'm excited, and I talk about this all the time, but we built something and we're growing something so amazing. But I get excited thinking about what another executive director would be able to do with this organization, but because it's so malleable, it can change.
Yeah.
And when you were talking about just even within the political landscape, it was something that we discussed prior to our Washington, D.C. policy summit. It was like, how do we move forward with this administration or that administration? It was like, we have to have solid, ground no matter which. And Indian country and our communities, that pendulum politically, it swings back and forth, and we've just learned how to duck and dive around it for the most part, and we just have to be agile.
Yeah, agile and resilient, I feel like are 2 words that describe what you're doing. Well, just to wrap up, can you just give me an outlook of what some hopes for outcomes would be, both from being at this trade show, making connections for the next few years? What are you planning on?
Yeah, I mean, it's pie in the sky stuff, that we think about and everybody talks about. The inner tribal trade, the interstate trade, the international trade, and the trade routes and the free trade zones that tribes have and are operating, other industries through right now. So the fact that we have sovereignty, all these things are amazing, but in order to, exercise these rights, we kind of have to get our house in order, right? So that's our job is in the preliminary phases, sort of the pre-production is how can we, build the war chest for our tribes so that they can advance with confidence. Knowing that when you talk about administration for the U.S., tribes have their own administrations, and there's sort of a lack of continuity when leadership changes. So how can we help them build capacity so that there is continuity to keep things like this, which really are really important. When you think about the opioid epidemic, when we think about PTSD, when we think about our own mortality rates and the lack of data around our health, we need to kind of curate and cultivate that data for ourselves, by us, for us. And so that's kind of where we're at. Our boots are on the ground and our hands are in the dirt, but our eyes are in the sky. So how do we kind of connect both of those? And what you're seeing right now is it's the boring part. We're pouring the foundation. We're smoothing the concrete out. We're not putting the finished siding on yet, but that's where we're at. And it's a marathon, but it's not a sprint. And that sort of work, the relationships, the trust that has to be built between Indian country and outside of that, there's a lot of reparations that still have to happen there. So that's where we're at. We're in the heat of it, and we're in the dirt yet. But we're okay with that.
I love the metaphor of building like a full structure, and you're just laying the foundation right now, and you can make that look however you want it to look. I think that's what excited me about cannabis in the first place, was that hopefully we can build it into something that doesn't look like what's come before. So it's really amazing to follow your work and see what you're doing. Thank you so much for joining me, Mary Jane and Rob.
It's been a pleasure, and we look forward to our future generations raising the roof. We're building the foundation, but they get to raise the roof.
Absolutely.
And always looking for more partners. And indigenouscannabis.org, our next DC summit, we have a couple regional summits that are coming up next year. Our fundraising golf outing, which is May 2nd, out in Washington. So come check us out. Come be a part of us. I mean, we need everybody to kind of lift this up and do it the right way. And for us, it's always about my kids and my grandkids, and what's the next generation. What impact or imprint can we have on that, so that it's going to be in a better space for them when they're leading this.
Social media handles so people can follow you?
Personally, at Mary Jane _flower girl. That's all of my Instagram shenanigans. But certainly Indigenous Cannabis Industry Association on LinkedIn.
Amazing.
Yeah, don't follow me on social. It's Indigenous Cannabis. We're on Instagram, we're on LinkedIn, Facebook, the website, all those things. Come check us out.
Amazing. Thank you so much for hanging out with us here at the Green Rebate stage here at MJ BizCon. I'm Mary Jane. This has been another episode of Cannabis Tech Talks. I'll see you next time.
Hi, I'm Brian, Director of Sales at Paybotic. Are you tired of losing money from payment disruptions and outages at your dispensary? At Paybotic, we've been providing reliable services for 11 years. While many payment companies come and go, Paybotic has always been a leader in payments for dispensaries and delivery services. Our support agents are available around the clock via phone, website, and chat, even if you're a single store location or a multi-state operation. Choose reliability and say goodbye to payment disruptions. Apply today with Paybotic.